Hey everyone, Natissa here, and my dog Minu at my feet, and welcome to You Can Grow Too. This video is round number 2 of how I am seed starting for this fall. And this is based on part 2 of everything that I'm growing for this fall and winter season. And yes, it is all done in many parts. And the reason is because of this video here of what to grow in Florida fall. And of course, it's not just for Floridians, but I live here in the subtropics and there's so much information out there, so many videos out there of, hey, grow this in July, grow this in August. But here is a whole different way to grow. So that video helps me because I'm not following what the books, quote unquote, tell me, but I'm looking at my temperatures, and that is guiding me at what to grow in the fall season here. And perhaps those temperatures can help you too. So that's why I'm doing it in many parts, because our temperatures are slowly starting to go down, and therefore all these different crops are starting to get planted. And I'll be putting, hey Minu, and I'll be putting a link to all these videos that I mentioned, including tips on easy seed sowing, because that video gives you general information on how to plant seeds, what a seed needs. But Minu just went out, we'll see what happens. She does this to me every time I film. But I'm glad she's with me all the time. To create this seed starting mix is, well, first of all, you can purchase this at your local store, but I just decided to make my own. And what I done was I took half peat moss, and peat moss is an absorbing material for moisture, and half sand. And sand is a draining material. And where I got this sand was actually from a gardening project that we took apart, and just letting you know, you do risk bugs and having weed seeds in your seed starting mix when you do that. And yes, I have encountered that. But I felt good about it because I did run it through a hardware cloth, which kind of helped filter out some of the leaves and buggies that were in there. So I feel comfortable with what I'm doing, and with the weed seeds coming up, I also have a good idea what certain seedlings look like. So this was just what I chose to do. And for what I'm planting my seed starts in, I am using, oh, doggy time. All right, what are we on? Like take 2, take 3, it feels like. All right, so what I had used to plant my little seed starts in were these Epic 6 cells. And I've started plants before in other 6 cell trays, and even in just old yogurt cups, and I've had success with both, but I am finding that I do like these 6 cells pretty good. But I just want you to know that if you don't have that, don't count yourself out. You can plant in other things, and I'm going to be showing you that in the future tours. But anyways, and if you saw round number 1 for how I'm seed starting this fall, you saw that I used hydrophobic seed starting mix. Absolutely dry, and I go to explain in my seedling tours why I did that, and it was a weird mistake on my part, and I did solve the problem. But you don't want to do that if you don't have to. First, get your seed starting mix wet, move that water around, and that is what I did in this round 2. In fact, I didn't even use my rainwater this time, just because I mentioned in the seedling tour that I ended up having smelly water, and I think it actually came from the seed starting mix because I did take it from outside. So instead I used tap water just in case the rainwater had something to do with it as well. But anyhow, I mixed that water in, and that seed starting mix was definitely not dry like last time, and I was able to get it into those 6 cells, and I pressed it in firmly, not too hard, because you want your seeds' roots, when they start developing, you want them to be able to go through that seed starting mix, but you also don't want it to be too loose because then it's just not going to hold right. But anyhow, that moist seed starting mix worked well. Nothing was falling out the bottom like last time. So I did have those regrets, but I fixed them. And you can see how it all turned out in my seedling tours, which we will be having another one here very soon. But I will confess to you that I am filming this intro a few weeks after my first plantings that you are going to see in just a moment. And with everything I told you about the seed starting mix and everything you are going to see shortly, we do have seedlings. maybe a sneak peek later. And I just want to remind you, this is not everything I'm growing this fall. This is just an example of some of the plants that I mentioned in the part 2 of Planting Everything video. Different plants, different seed needs, just to kind of hopefully give you some information that you might be able to glean from. Or maybe be entertained from, I don't know. So let me turn back time, get you in close so you can see what I did and see the crazy things that I encountered. So our first demonstration for this part 2 seed sowing is I'm going to sow peppers this year. Usually I would always plant them in the spring and going, or I should say late winter going into spring, and have them coming up in the summer. But I've had trouble with my peppers this year, and we're going to try to see if we can do better with our peppers. Oh, there's a seed falling out right there. So here's our jalapeno peppers, and I'm going to represent our pepper sowing. When it comes to sowing peppers, you can also sow eggplants the same way, roughly 1/4 inch deep. And I'm going to take my bamboo stick and just kind of, oh, already as we start, get that seed out of there, or that bit of debris. And I'm just putting in little depressions, roughly 1/4 inch deep. And I'm going to try to get one seed in each. Now the thing about these seeds is this seed packet right here is actually, I got this and it was sealed and it was back in 2019 and it is 2024 right now. So we're going to use this, and if I run out in my hand, I do have a mix of 2020 jalapenos. Just going to take that seed. And I will use older seed, and I don't really notice any issues of anything coming up or not coming up or whatnot. So I am going to just be popping these in. We had a very good pepper plant that actually sowed itself around this time. And it really taught me that, hey, maybe I need to sow my peppers in fall and have it grow through the winter time. We're going to go into this seed packet. So being that that pepper plant had great success, I thought I'd try sowing my peppers and eggplants at this time and see if we can have a better harvest, because it just gets way too hot here. The rains came in later. I was struggling as a gardener, and that one pepper plant that sowed itself around this time, oops, these two seeds got in together, so I'm just going to separate them out with the bamboo. There we go. So hopefully this will work out better, being that we're trying our peppers at this time. And you'll see that in most of the holes, I did get the pepper seeds in. One sitting on top, but we'll push it in. And lightly cover. And there we go. Still going to continue with my tags. My sticker tags, because the other tags the birds kept getting, so we are still experimenting with this. So there we go, our jalapeno pepper representing our peppers and eggplants that we are planting here at the end of summer so that it can grow through the fall and winter, being we had such luck with that self-seeded one. So next, I also had great success with broccoli last year in the fall and winter because I started them around this time, and I got this new to me variety, a purple broccoli I've never grown before. And before I do, let me just say it is 1/4 inch deep. So I'm just going to grab maybe about 4 seeds for each cell, and I will just pop in those holes right now. Roughly 1/4. Gonna do my best to drop it in. I can't grow this outside right now. The garden is too weedy and it is way too hot. And here are the seeds. These seeds are pretty much the same looking and same size as other brassicas. And brassica is just a name of a family of plants, and there's a lot of plants in the brassica family, like your broccolis here, your cabbages, kohlrabis, things like that that are related to each other. So we're going to plant these in the cells. And yeah, oh, I see one a seed that, they're not making my holes, but that's okay. We're going to push them in, just dropping them in the holes. Maybe there's going to be a few. I'm just going to drop one on, that one went. Yeah, it's, you know, I always go in with the idea that I'm going to do it this way and organized and all that. And it just, goes its own way. I saw a couple seeds land in that hole, and a couple seeds just land on top of my holes. Oh gosh, every time. But every time, it always works out. All right, I do see some seeds sitting on top here. I will show you. Yeah, a couple seeds there. Might be hard to see, but they're sitting on top. And there's some in the holes. And I just plant, I'm hoping to get at least one good plant, because I'm going to plant these in containers, and I have a lot of these large brassicas that I plan to grow in there because I'm able to give them better attention. And last year, when I planted out my broccolis, a bug came the next day and just ate it down. So I always try to plant more plants than what I can grow out in the garden, because that happens a lot, especially when we're in this end of the summer season and maybe early fall season. A lot of the pests here in subtropical Florida are still out there. So I always plant more than what I need. Let's get the label on there. Purple broccoli. And being that I am in the season, like I said, we're still late summer, you know, getting into early fall. And it's really hard for me to plant these plants outside because, number one, I didn't clean out the summer garden yet. But I have an indoor growing light system, and I found that growing these large brassicas, like your broccolis, like your cabbage, and so on, these I have to start inside because those bugs are relentless, and I've tried it outside and they are eaten down in no time. So yeah, getting a head start on this so when they go outside, they're not going to be baby seedlings, but hopefully a decent sized plant like you might see at the big box store or nurseries. So there we go. One of our brassica plants done. Speaking of the cabbage, we are going to be growing a green cabbage. I did a purple cabbage last year and still going to do that cabbage as well, but we're going to try this. And on the back, this brassica says, plant the seed about a ½ inch deep. So it is different than our purple sprouting broccoli, but if you remember the seeds, they look a lot alike, and not only that, but are pretty much the same size. So don't stress about grabbing out a ruler, getting worried that, oh my, this one says ½ inch, this one says a ½ inch. Just, it gives you an idea. And something else we're going to do with this green cabbage, I've been planting a lot of my seeds starting in these Epic 6 cells. And there's other things that you can use to seed start too. And I want to show you one. You can use a regular little pot, a little container. This was from another plant that I got at the nursery. I would tip it over for you, but because there's holes on the bottom to show you, but yeah, I'm reusing this. And you can also use different party cups and yogurt pots, just pop holes in them, and you have yourself a seed starting pot or a seed starting container. So we're going to use this just to demonstrate that it can be done, because this is how I used to do it. So here are the green cabbage seeds. I am just going to poke, like I said, I am not measuring. Is it 1/4? Is it a ½ inch? It's going to be all right. It really is. You just don't want to plant your seeds too deep. That's the thing. And I do want multiple seeds, or I should say multiple plants of cabbage, because like I said, the bugs come and get them, and I ultimately want a cabbage plant or two. And you might be thinking, well, then why am I just planting it in one container? Why not a couple? And that is because I like to divide my plants. Some plants you can divide pretty well, like, for example, have them all growing in one container. And when they get to be a small seedling stage, you can gently lift them out and tease the roots apart, as they say, and put them in separate pots. And that's what I like to do, because I start so many plants, as you see. Hence, I have so many parts to, these seed starting videos. that I need to, instead of starting with like 5, 6, 7 of these, I'm going to do one and then divide those plants out. But anyhow, let's keep going. We are just popping in seeds in the holes, and now that I've been talking to you, I lost track what I am doing. But like I said, I'm always losing track what I'm doing. I am always, my seed starting is never a perfect thing. I can guarantee you that. I mean, you don't need me to tell you. Look what I'm doing. Who knows what I'm doing? Again. Seeds all over the top that didn't make the holes. Some did make the holes. I don't know if you can see that. But I am just going to pop in what I see, just about 1/4, half an inch deep. And you know what? I sometimes get on myself how kind of laid back I do things. And I think to myself, my gosh, what am I doing? But at the end of the day, during the season, we are growing a lot of food here and a lot of beautiful things. So I must be doing something right. That's the way I look at it. And that green cabbage. Whoop. There we go. We just need to know what it is while it's growing. And there we go. Okay, let's see. Back to our epic 6 cells and back to our large brassica plants. We are going to sow the seed of Brussels sprouts. Yeah, a little iffy where I live. But again, oh, you can see it well here. You can see the seeds. Looks just the same. And more importantly, it is the same size as our other brassicas, the cabbage, the broccoli. So I'm going to get this into my hand. Ah, dang it. I'm just spilling seed everywhere. I might have dropped some of the seeds in here while I was getting out of the pack, but hopefully not. But here are the seeds. Again, looks the same. And what was interesting is, of course, no, number one, I should say, that's an old seed packet again, about 2019, and we're in 2024. But what was interesting is that there is no, information on that telling me how deep to sow my seed. And well, I can look at other seed packets to guide me, like I mentioned before. If it's like pretty much the same type of seed, like these are brassica seeds that I've mentioned, and they're the same size, chances are you most likely will be treating them the same as far as how deep you're going to plant them. But you also can look online. That is a major tool for you to use. And just for you, I mean, if I wasn't on camera, I would have just planted them in, doing the same thing I did with the broccoli and the cabbage. But I did look it up online, and it's funny. It did say, according to whatever site it was I looked at, it said, sow these seeds the depth of about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch deep. Again, when you look on the back of those seed packets I showed you, it said 1/4 to 1/2 inch deep, and all the seeds looked very much like this and the same size. So it just kind of shows you not that anyone's ever officially said that to me, but with a lot of, seed sowing, you do recognize the pattern of how things go. So I'm just going to pop these seeds in. It is roughly popped more in a hole than I wanted to. Again, oh well. I watch back on my videos and I laugh. And I think, what in the world? And I have seedling tours, which I just put out one not long ago. And you saw my crazy seed sowing there. And my crazy things that have happened within that time. I'm just going to pour those in. There we go. Trying not to get it to the other side. But you saw all that craziness I did. And then if you saw the seedling tour, you know that it all worked out. I mean, I had done crazy, like big no-nos. Like I used hydrophobic seed starting mix. It wasn't soaking up anything, and I'm not going to get into the details now. You'll just have to see the videos, but ultimately I made it work out. But there you go. Let's get the tag on here for the Brussels sprouts. My crazy seed sown Brussels sprouts. Oh boy, it'll work out. Oh my goodness, my table has spilled seed all over it, and yeah, it is, seed starting doesn't have to be perfect. But we are going to try this new crop to me as far as growing it goes. Tobacco. Not to use it for what you might think, of course, but it's just like there's other things you can do with tobacco. I know there's medicinal purposes for it, maybe things with chop and drop for the garden, building up the soil and that sort of thing. I don't know. It's just been something my husband and I have just been, in general, just very curious to grow. And I don't know if you can tell. Look at those seeds. Those are the smallest seeds I've ever worked with. And if you were to see this in person, at least I think, my gosh, it is just like dust. I mean, I question, is it a seed? I don't know. But no, seed can get that small. And on the outside it says this is an annual, plant in full sun, but start the seeds in a tray with fine, medium, and indirect light. So not indirect light like with like the sun beating down on it, but well-lit place, maybe. Yeah, in the shade where it's well lit. I mean, we'll find out. I've never grown this before, but I thought it would be good to show you and just know that if you're, nervous about starting seeds, I am obviously not an expert. I'm just going in because I want to see how this grows. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to take off my glove for this. I'm just going to dab them on. Just dab them on the surface. They're in there. We will see what happens. Make sure you take off anything. Oh, so you're definitely not going to be able to see those seeds on top of there, but I just gently tap them on top, usually with super-de-duper fine seed, small seed. A lot of the times they do say surface sow, and that means to really just put on the top soil of your growing medium. And sometimes just gently press it in just to keep it in place. But when I water this, I am for sure going to use like a water bottle just to spritz across the top. In fact, with a lot of these, I just do it as I'm starting out. But especially for seed that small, that's what you really need to do. So yeah, we will see. This is brand new to me. All right. What's next? Again, I wanted to try something different other than just those Epic 6 cells, because sometimes we come across different things, or, we only have certain things available to us wherever we are, or maybe just what we're just able to get for ourselves financially or whatever wise. So this I got just from my local big box store, and it comes with a tray. You can pull it out. Here's the tray, and I pulled out a lot of these planting cells where you can plant your seeds, and you can just kind of push it up. Oop, there you go. Good demonstration. I don't want to push too high, but this, you can push up the bottom, and it can pop out your plant plug whenever it's grown and ready to come out. But we are going to plant our seeds in here. And the tray, by the way, I forgot to mention, this is where you can do the bottom watering that I talked about in the last video by putting your water down in this tray. And your plants, as they're growing, can wick up that water. And that's always nice. Is this controversial? I don't know. But in these seed starting trays, I am going to plant rutabagas, a root crop. And a lot of people say, and I understand, it is best to direct sow your root crops in the ground, because when you are planting in these seed starting trays or pots or whatever, there's a big chance that you could disrupt the root system. And when you are eating root crops, you're eating the root. But what I did last year and the year before is, I have a video. I'll just link it down below. I'm drawing a blank on what I called the video, but anyhow, it's free plants, an easy way to get free plants from the garden. And it's a method that I do every fall and winter, actually every season, but it's just generally during fall and winter I do it. And anyhow, I done it with the rutabagas, and I was really disrupting the root system. Actually, I shouldn't put that in quotes, because I really was disrupting the root system. But as I pulled those seedlings out of the ground and moved them around the garden, they grew just as well, at least in my experience, just as well as the direct sowed rutabagas that I had done. So I think I said in that video, or I said in one of my tours or whatever, that I want to try rutabagas in a seed starting tray. So this is the year that I'm going to be doing that. We're just going to sow half of them here. And an interesting thing again, Rutabagas are considered brassicas, I'm pretty sure. Yes, there they are. The name, what is that in science? Like you got your, what is that, kingdom, the family, the species, all that. It is, a type of brassica plant. And as we talked about a lot with our brassica plants, with the same size seed, roughly the same depth, 1/4 inch. So again, just putting in those holes and going to drop those seeds in. Nope, got a lot in there. Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna lie, another extra chaotic seed sowing, but if you followed the other videos, you've also seen that there has been great success despite this. And that's the whole point of the channel, is you can grow too. You don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to have this crazy training. Just get in there and plant something. So there you go. A root crop started in a seed starting tray. So yeah, this is going to be fun to watch. And something that you can do too. Let's go outside and start planting some of my examples for this round 2 seed sowing. Now I have used marigolds last year, and I thought it'd be fun to use a different flower just because they kind of work the same as far as planting depth goes, and just to kind of show you that when you know how to plant one thing, sometimes it's very similar in how you plant other things. So like with the marigolds we did last year, I am going to do the same thing, but in this cornerstone bed. Yes, it is covered up by summer growth still. This is still some of our summer plants. We're going to be harvesting them out soon. But what I'm going to do is hopefully let this shade kind of protect the seedlings as they come up just a little bit right before it is time for these plants to come out and then this cosmos to grow up and out. So the placement, why did I decide my placement for this cosmos? Well, I knew I wanted it in this section of the cornerstone bed, but I also want to plant beets. And beets is a root crop, and it is going to require more sun to produce the roots. And the cosmos flower is going to grow tall. And I grew this last year in this, well, not last year, but last season in spring and summer in this bed. So I have an idea how it's going to grow. So I was going to plant my beets behind the cosmos, but then I remembered, the beets need more sun. So I'm gonna plant the beets in front of the cosmos. But we're planting cosmos today, so let me get you in on that. And all I had done was taken my little rake and kind of raked away a lot of the mulch that was on top. I also have a bit of compost that was on top as well. And we're just going to make little holes, little rows, and just sprinkle a couple of seeds in each and cover it up. I might water it, but I do know we have a tropical storm on the way, well, supposed to be in a couple of days, so I might just let that storm water these plants. As these seedlings grow and we see which ones come up, which ones do not, which one the bugs eat, which ones do not, we will make our selection of which plant to let grow. But right now, this is just getting the seeds in the ground and getting them going. It is time to plant bush beans again, at least according to my success I had last year. And for this seed starting example, I am going to grow the dragon tongue bush beans. And of course I'm going to grow other varieties, but like I said, just for the sake of the example. So what I'm going to do is in these 3 beds, I am going to again take my little rake, move the mulch back. I am going to plant the beans toward the edge of the beds. It did work last year. I don't want to be right up against the beds because you got to think about the root system. You want them to spread out as much as they can. And also on the edge of these raised beds, if you think about it, they are also going to dry out faster. The moisture, it's going to start drying out from the outside going in. But I also want to plant some other things in these beds very soon, so where I'm going to put them, it should work. I did this last year. So with the beans, you plant them about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch in depth, and each bush bean is roughly about like a foot tall, a little over, maybe a foot wide. And I'm just gonna plant each bean roughly 3 to 4 inches apart. And if they all make it, great, it should work. Last year I had a lot of bush beans up these rows, but not all of them make it, whether it be lack of germination or bugs come in and eat them, whatever. If I plant them close together, I should have enough growing that will give us plenty of harvest. And if it's too much, well then, we can always clip out some of the seedlings. Now I'm just gonna finish up planting the rest of these bush beans. Still summertime and the sun is out, but we are going to do a little bit of an experiment of planting Brussels sprouts. Yes, this what I like to call a large brassica plant in ground. And you saw me in this video, it was a couple weeks ago, we filmed a lot of our big brassicas in our seed starts. And I can only grow them successfully that way because the bugs, they're just so bad this time of year. Even if I start them inside and get them out as seedlings, they will be nipped down right away. My husband actually thought of doing this experiment. Why not just get a pack of seeds, dump them in the ground, water them, and see if we can get a plant successfully growing from that. So this will be fun. So what I had done was, if you looked in this container, there's a lot of cut grass, and I let that sit there for a few weeks in order to break down a little bit, hopefully become like a little layer of compost to help with replenishing this container, a large pot. And what I did was I just created little rows within this container and just sprinkled the seed in. And it does say on this seed packet to plant the seed about 1/4 inch deep. And of course I don't bring a ruler out with me, I'm just eyeballing it, as they say, and burying the seed in the ground. And ultimately we just want one plant to grow in here. I believe that is all I really can do as far as having enough nutrition in here to provide for one plant. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I didn't think I was going to show this part, and in the part 1 of everything that I'm planting for fall and winter, I mentioned my garden goals for the season, and one of them is to try experimenting with succession sowing. I had a glimpse of it accidentally in the spring season and it made me think. So I am going to try doing beets. Instead of direct sowing them later, I am going to try to start them inside in seed starting cells and see if I can get them out there as a seedling. So maybe I can succession sow beets. And something else I'm experimenting with is I'm going to try these Epic 6 cells again. It is the 16 cell one. It's very small, probably, gosh, roughly, an inch. And so these I'm not going to be able to keep in here for very long. Again, this is the first time I'm using these, but I'm going to assume, based on my seed sowing that I do, I'm wondering if this will only be able to last in here about 3 weeks. And the weather is changing. It's starting to feel nice outside. So I'm wondering if, maybe get the beets started. We can get them out early and we'll see what happens. Again, this is just an example. But I'm just going to put in my moist seed starting mix into these little cells, gently press them in, and stick 1 beet seed in each cell. And the reason for that is because beets, even though it looks like 1 seed, it's actually like a seed pod. Maybe some seed places sell them as individual seeds, but the little round, what looks like a large 1 seed, is actually a few seeds inside. So if 1 seed doesn't germinate, chances are maybe the other one will. So we're gonna try. Again, a tropical storm should be on the way, and I'm gonna let that water these beans. And I really wanted to plant my tomatoes in today, but again, with the storm coming, I don't know. You have your freezes to watch out for. I have hurricanes. We all got something. I'm gonna head inside, get my seedlings bottom watered, spray the tops of them, and get them under the grow lights. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one because we still have to finish up.